Hello there, my name is Peter Chand and I'm a storyteller. And the story I'd like to share with you today is a story I heard, I think it was way back in 2005 or 2006, up in Banchory at a festival north of Aberdeen, where I met the legendary Sheila Stewart. And it's the first time I'd met her. So many fantastic memories of that festival. And in the story round, there was a young girl called Rhiannon, who was maybe 15 or 16. She told this story that I'm going to share with you today. And I think, I've got a feeling it's from the Arabian Nights, but I'm not 100% sure. It's just got that kind of feel about it. So I hope you enjoy it. Once there were three brothers, and these three brothers, they were traders. And they just conducted their business of the day when they were sitting there enjoying a nice cup of tea in a tea house. As they looked out the window, well, it was a busy road. And they saw this old man trying to cross that road. But whenever he would, well, a carriage or horses would come thundering by and the old man had to step back onto the pavement. Several times this happened. And the three brothers looked at each other and they thought, if that was our father, if that was our grandfather, we'd expect somebody to help. So that's what they did. The first brother stopped the traffic from that side. The second brother stopped the traffic from the opposite side. And the third brother gently linked his arm into the old man's arm, helped him across the road. The two other brothers joined them. The traffic continued like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Because as soon as the old man's foot had touched the opposite pavement, his hair started growing long way past his shoulders. His beard unravelled almost like a beach towel. Tunk! And around his body appeared a beautiful cloak. Because he was a magician, a wizard, a magic man. And he said to those boys, thank you for helping me. I'd have been stuck on the other side of the road all day. And you know there's important work to do in the forest. I'm going to give you each a gift. Now he dipped into his beautiful cloak and he pulled out a telescope. Now this telescope, well, it was made out of gold and encrusted with gemstones. He said to the first brother, this is for you. And the boy took it. He says, this is a magic telescope. Name any place in the world and you will see that in an instant. Have fun with it. The first brother, he was so excited. And the second brother, he said, and this is for you. He dipped into his cloak and he pulled out something rolled up. And as he unrolled it, it was a carpet with gold and turquoise and silver threads that sparkled. This, he said, is a magic carpet. You and your brothers can sit on this carpet, name any place in the world, and in an instant, you'll be there. Enjoy it. And he too took that gift and was pleased. And to the third brother, he said, and this is for you. He dipped into his cloak and he handed him an apple. Well, you could see the disappointment on the third brother's face. The first one had been given a magic telescope, the second one a flying carpet, and him an apple. But this is not a normal apple, he said. This is a magic apple. It is a health-giving apple. It doesn't matter how poorly you are. If you eat the apple, your health will be restored. Enjoy your gifts. And in a puff of smoke, well, he was gone. Now the first brother, you can imagine, he said, show me the pyramids. He could see those beautiful pyramids. A second later, show me the ice caps, the Amazon forest. And he and his brothers, well, they saw all the world through that magic telescope. The second brother took his magic carpet. Come, brothers, let's go. Let's go to Russia. In a second, there they were. A moment later, they could be in Japan. They could be in any country in Africa. They could be in India. So many adventures. I wish I had time to tell you about them all. And the third brother, what could he do with his apple? Kept it shiny. Now, in the place that they lived, there was a princess. And she was how you imagine princesses to be in stories. Beautiful and gorgeous and fair and all those kinds of things. And she was those things, but she was more. She was compassionate and she was kind. She would once a month go to the schools and see how the children were getting on with their studies. She would mix with the traders and see how trade was for them, how they were faring in these hard economic times. And nobody had seen her for a while. And as the brothers were talking and saying, I wonder how the princess is doing. Well, the first one with the telescope says, we don't need to wonder, do we? Telescope, show me the princess. And in a second, there he was flying over rivers, over lakes, over woodlands, over forest. In the distance, there was a palace with a tall tower and a square window. And as he looked inside the window, here's what he saw. The princess was lying on her bed. Her breathing was so shallow. Her mother and father, well, they were shaking their heads and sobbing. And the physicians were just defeated. And the first brother said, the princess is really sick. She's really ill. We haven't got very long. We have to act quickly. Second brother says, come, sit my carpet. Carpet, he said, take me to the princess. And in a second there they were, flying over rivers and lakes, woodlands and forests. In the distance, a palace with a tall tower and a square window. And they hovered outside the window. Then the three brothers stepped in. They said to the king, Your Majesty, we've come to save your daughter. We've come to help her. Now it was the third brother's turn to step forward. He took the apple. He cut off a sliver as thin as a fingernail, and he put it between those lips that were grey. It took all her strength. And then she swallowed. And when she did, a little colour returned to her cheeks. So he cut a bigger piece, slightly bigger. She chewed and swallowed that, a bit of colour to her lips. And so it continued. With more of the apple she was eating, more life was being given back to her. Until she took the last bite and she opened those big, beautiful brown eyes. Well, the king and queen, you can imagine, they were hugging her and stroking her and kissing her and saying, It's a miracle, you've come back from death. And the king looked at his daughter and he says, Daughter, these three brothers all contributed to saving your life. The first one saw through his magic looking glass that you were poorly. The second one used the carpet to get here on time, and the third one gave you a health-giving apple. You have an hour, 1 hour. Choose one of these brothers to be your husband. And with that, the king turned to leave, but she grabbed his kameez and she said, No, father, I don't need an hour. He said, No, think about this. It's a big decision. Don't think of it lightly. And she said, No, father, I know. I know without a shadow of a doubt who I want to marry. And because he knew his daughter was beautiful and wise, he agreed to her decision. And she married one of those brothers, and they had a good life together. They had 6, 7 beautiful, chubby children, and they lived well. But of course, you know what we're going to ask you now. Which brother did she marry, and why? All of them contributed. The first brother, he saw that she was poorly. The second brother used the magic carpet to get there on time. The third one gave her the health-giving apple. Sometimes when you ask this story, this riddle, you have some great answers. Sometimes people say, well, it's obvious. It's the most handsome one. Sometimes people say, well, it's the one who thought about her. How's the princess doing? He's the one because he brought it to mind. But I'll tell you the answer. The answer is the third one, but not for the reason you might expect. The reason why she married the one with the apple was because of this. Once her health had been restored, the brother with the magic telescope still had his magic telescope. The brother with the magic carpet still had his magic carpet. But of course, what happened to the magic apple? It was gone. And she knew he could have sold that to the highest bidder. He could have used it on himself, but no. Without even thinking twice, he gave it to her. He sacrificed that gift to save her life. And she thought, if he's good enough to sacrifice that gift, he's good enough to be my husband. And that's why, as the saying goes, they lived happily ever after. Thank you very much for listening to my story.